Hey everybody, I'm Madalyn Sklar. I'm the host of the Social ROI Chat. Boy, did we have an amazing chat today. I'm here with our awesome guest, Chris Spurvey. Chris, wow, what a chat. What did you think? What are your thoughts?
It was a lot of fun. And this is where I'm afraid to say it almost, but I'm not a big Twitter user, and it's only because I guess for me I don't have the right tools to kind of manage all the noise that I get on there. So I'm looking forward to actually learning more about Managed Flitter but it was amazing, and to see the reactions and the way people answered the questions, and then me, after having typed my answers, being able to respond to their answers. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the experience.
It was a lot of fun. You were so great with your answers. I mean, you were so prepared. You had lots of tweets to, get your point across, because, with a Twitter chat, it is challenging, 140 characters, but you were so great just having your tweets go one after the other, and it all made sense.
Yeah.
When you were piecing together a story, especially when you were talking Nick Mulready's podcast a little bit, because I definitely want to touch on that.
Yes.
Quick shout out, we got Natasha right now. I know we've got some other, but I see Natasha here, so I definitely want to give her a shout out. We have a live audience here, Chris.
Yeah, we got a few people in the room, and just so you're aware, you are breaking up a little bit with the.
Am I?
Yeah, just so you're aware.
Yeah, thank you for letting me. That's the cane. It comes in and knocks down the internet.
Yeah.
So not fun.
No.
So is it okay right now?
Yeah, it's right now. It's good. Yeah, welcome, Josephine. I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you enjoyed the chat.
Yeah, it's great seeing you. So today's topic: invisibility and discovery. How to ensure your brand gets seen and really delivered. You shared lots of great info. Let's talk about question number one. When we're talking, how like how do you discovered it important? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think you're asking me about question number one, Madalyn.
Yes.
You are breaking up there.
My language.
Yeah, I'm watching your lips to make sure I'm seeing. Okay, she said question one. Yeah, so I mean, for me, I go back in time, I guess, to before really social media was playing an impact in my life. And, when I think back, I go back to around 2005 or so, and I took, on a whim, I went to Fargo, North Dakota. So if anyone knows geography from where I live in Newfoundland, Canada, which is the furthest easterly point in Canada. And I took a flight to Winnipeg, Manitoba, and drove down to Fargo to see a Bob Proctor Science of Getting Rich seminar. I'm not sure if anyone knows of Bob. He's getting up there in years now, but he is still on fire. And so at this conference, I learned about the great law of cause and effect. And, I guess basically how I have approached my social media and becoming discoverable is I've been trying my hardest to live by the law of cause and effect. And I have as an emblem in my life the great apothecary scale. And on one bowl you have service, and on the other bowl you have effect, or cause and effect. So I know for me to be discovered, I just pile on the service and give as much as I can. Within reason, obviously, this is a business, for me, but I give as much as I can to people, and thus I find my discoverability grows exponentially as a result of that. So that's kind of that's a summary of the answer that I gave to that question number one.
Right. For sharing that. Also, Stacy here, so shout out to On question number, let me pull this up. You initiatives can take to make themselves, and you were talking about a multi-layered approach.
Yeah.
That?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, and so for me, the way I have, through my own experiences, a particular book had a big impact on me when I began to grow my platform. So I began the start of my personal branding journey began when I decided to write a book, and I'll just show it. It's Time to Sell: Cultivating the Sales Mindset. And what happened was, after I started to write it, I spent I spent over $30,000 in hiring a coach to help me write the book. And I came to a quick realization that, oh my God, it's one thing to write a book. It's another thing to have someone actually buy the book. And so I came to the realization that outside of my mom and dad and my family, and a few coworkers and things like that, I wasn't going to have anyone to buy it. I never had a platform. So I ended up reading a book by Dorie Clark, the book Stand Out. And in that book, she presents a model. I'm big on models. I'm big on, once I have an image, a picture to follow, so to speak, a roadmap, I will follow that roadmap. So in the book, Stand Out by Dorie Clark, she presents this model whereby you grow around your niche, around what you're really good at and who you're good at serving. And the way to find that is to just analyze your story. So for me, I've been historically really good at sales. I layer on top of my sales abilities, personal development and motivation. And more recently, it's personal branding. And so how I've grown my brand is by following Dorie Clark's formula of going from one to one to many to many to many, and staying true to yourself and being genuine through the process. So that's what I talked about in question number 2. And it's really the model that Dorie Clark provides in Stand Out, her great book.
Who do you think I interviewed for my Twitter today?
Dorie Clark?
Dorie Clark. When you said her name, I'm like, are you a mind reader? Up today and interviewed her. What a small world. She has a new book.
Yes. I contemplated jumping on a plane and going to Boston for her book launching thing in middle of October. I think October 14th, I'm going to say, somewhere around there. I've had her on my podcast twice, and we've had some great interactions over the last year or two. And this, that's a little tactic for anyone watching. If someone has had a big impact on your life, reach out to them and let them know, and that can turn into a relationship.
Absolutely. I'm in the media marketing world last year. She didn't know who I was. I knew who she loved her books. What I did is I stayed in touch with every chance I got. I said hi on Twitter.
Yeah.
Regularly and then not easy getting big people to Facebook friend request, right?
Absolutely.
And kind of lay down some foundation. We kept chatting on Twitter, and request, and she accepted. I was like, big deal. Author, speaker. She speaks all over the world, and so now we stay on top of. Like, she knew what was happening. Yeah, I hope you're okay, and that's so cool. Like, just like say, hey, would you guest on my podcast? And she said yes. Great point you're making. You don't ask for
exactly.
People, it works. It really. I want to move into question number 4 about: is there a network that outshines the others in discoverability and visibility? You talked about LinkedIn. You made your comment get per, and I talked about how I make Twitter per. But tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about that with LinkedIn. I'm curious. It's interesting how people will say Twitter Twitter. They say, this is how I get discovered. This is how I connect with people. Sometimes people will say LinkedIn, and I definitely want to hear your take.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, the way you're framing the question now. It has a little, maybe a little bit of a different meaning to me than when I wrote my reply. I find for me how I have approached LinkedIn. So back in 2006 or so, I made the jump into sales, and I jumped into IT professional services. I joined the firm as their manager of business development, I think at the time. And one of my tasks was to find consultants, no matter where they are in the world, and align them with work that needed to be done here in our province. And I just found immediately that LinkedIn was a gold mine. And I began to notice that as my work on LinkedIn grew, and as I understood the platform more with connecting with people, my income started to grow. And so, I made that correlation, let's just say. And so then when I decided to write my book, what I did, there was an article written by Cheryl Snap Connor on Forbes about how in 30 days, when I launched my book, the first 30 days, I sold over 10,000 copies. And it was all on the back of LinkedIn. And what I did on LinkedIn is I reached out to influencers. And when I say influencers, I'm not referring to influencers who like Bill Gates and James Altucher and people who are miles ahead of me. I'm referring to people who are kind of at my level, maybe, and you know what I mean by this, perhaps a little bit below my level or maybe a little bit above my level, but we're peers. And what I would do is I would reach out and I would send a copy of my book to those people for free. And what I never would ask anything in return. And what ended up happening was a number of organizations that I knew a few chief marketing officers, all who I had connected with on LinkedIn. And all of a sudden I had a number of really big bulk orders. And as a result of kind of this guerrilla marketing on LinkedIn, connecting with peers, I sold over 70,000 copies of my book to date, with a large number of those kind of sales being a result of bulk orders from connections that I made on LinkedIn. So
70,000? 70, like
73,000 to be exact.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, it's done really well, and it's all been on the back of LinkedIn, and fast forward from really my book progress, I decided to launch a course in January of this year, and because I had built what I do on LinkedIn is I provide value on LinkedIn through some articles that I write, through posts that I put up there. What I do is I have a funnel. I lead people to my website through additional value. I offer lead magnets. And then when they go to my site, they download that lead magnet and they get on my prospect list or my ideal client list. And so I just find for me, LinkedIn has proven to be the place where I can find ideal clients. Now, what I will say is it's not a throw mud against the wall and see what sticks platform, versus some of the other platforms feel to me that way. It's like you spray and kind of pray but you know what? I make that comment not knowing how to actually effectively use those other platforms. I'm sure if I got into those platforms and had someone mentor me and help me become effective strategic user of those platforms, I'd see results on those as well, right? So it's all about hanging your hat on a platform that feels good for you.
Absolutely. What works for one person may not. So it makes perfect sense. Well, congratulations on your, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And you talk about that inspiration. I was paying very close attention to your answers, your responses to question number 7, which was who had discovered on social. We're talking about to Rick podcast art, and you said that Melissa
Griffin.
To you. And I tell you what I was doing, you're going to laugh. So while I was getting this live stream, I went over past, I used to listen, I haven't listened in a while, but, and downloaded the episode with Melissa talking about how she inspired you to start a course, an online course. So talked about that during the chat. I'm pulling up your tweets here. You're talking, you listen to this on there, and that basically that she inspired you, that she did a webinar. Is that a webinar? So that inspired you? I guess about it. You tell us.
Yeah,
I'm just going by what I saw in your tweets.
Yeah, and I'm reading between the lines as you're breaking up there. So I think you're asking.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but I think I get your question. So I mentioned how Dory Clark gave me a really great model to follow around in the earliest days of growing my personal brand. So I'm a believer in finding 1, 2, 3 really good mentors who can provide a blueprint for you to follow. So I published my book, had success, grew an email list, kind of grew some organic attraction via LinkedIn. And I'm at the point, I've been at the point now for the last, say, year where I've said to myself, you know what, I really want to monetize this more. And I've thrown a lot of mud against the wall to see what sticks around that. So in listening to Rick Mulready's podcast, I heard Melissa being interviewed, and I heard the results that she was getting off of an evergreen webinar. Her course is called, her course that you buy is called Pinfinite Growth. And she's had some significant traction using Pinterest. And so what she does is she has an evergreen webinar where she educates people on the front end. And then at the tail end of the webinar, she invites people to purchase her course where they can, go deeper into the content and actually implement the content. Right. And so what I decided to do, and so I should also note the subsequent episode after Melissa, Rick interviewed a gentleman by the name of Andrew Hubbard, who runs the Facebook advertising campaigns for Melissa. So she's driving a lot of cold traffic. Okay. She's driving a pile of cold traffic to the to her webinar, and a percentage of that is converting, and it's become a 7-figure funnel for her in the last 6 to 8 months. Wow. Yeah. So, and you know what, I try not to get caught up in the energy of numbers and try to focus more on continuing to focus on what I can give of value and focus on the energy of progress. I always believe that if we get too caught up in numbers, we can become consumed by them, and they can really distract us from really what our purpose is, right? But anyway, besides that, so I decided, you know what, I know LinkedIn. I know it inside and out, so I can follow her model, create an evergreen webinar. And so what I did, 2 Wednesdays ago, I ran 3 webinars back to back for about 150 people who were on my email list. I went out to about 600 on my email list, my top readers, and I invited them to one of 3 live webinars. And what I did is I ran those live webinars, and I recorded each of the live webinars. And then once I was finished, and I had a good success rate, I think I enrolled 30 people in my course, which is called Linked Success. And what I did then is I recorded the webinars, and I then created an evergreen version of the webinar. And you can go to chrisspurvey.com/LinkedIn, and you can watch that evergreen webinar where you will learn a lot about LinkedIn, and I will offer the course on the back end, Linked Success, right? So that's my experience. It's like I saw this model, and it was an epiphany moment for me, and I said, you know what, let's do this, right? So there you go.
I think that is very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. It inspired me. Now I want to go listen. I'm putting there, so it's like, okay, I need all the inspiration I can get. Yeah,
you should have a course called Twitter Smarter.
I do. Actually, I do.
Oh, okay, you do. Well, there you go.
I need to go update it and do it. So that's my plan.
Beautiful.
Chris, thank you for sharing. Thank you for social ROI chat today. It was so good. What's the better reach you?
Best way to reach me would be go to chrisspurvey.com and subscribe to my newsletter. I've been religiously sending out a newsletter every Sunday morning for the last three and a half years. And it's no selling in the newsletter. I basically tell people stories about me falling down and picking myself back up as I try to pursue my adventures on social media, on LinkedIn. And, every now and then I'll mention a webinar I might be putting off, or, my podcast as well. I have a podcast called Entrepreneur Sales School, which is a daily show, 5 to 6 minutes long. And so I might mention that in my newsletter as well. So yeah, but all that's available, chrisspurvey.com.
Great. So much for your time. Thank you for everybody here watching. We'll be back again. We're going to have Logan Young from Blitz Facebook Marketing. So until next, we'll see you guys out on Twitter.